I'd like to call the meeting to order. Will you please call the roll?
Mayor Jorgensen.
Present.
Commissioner Weigand.
Present.
Commissioner Kaler.
Present.
Commissioner Crowley.
Present.
Commissioner Skidmore.
Present.
Looks like we're all here today. I'd like to welcome everybody that's in our gallery and also tuned in on your electronic devices. We'll lead the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Pastor Jessica Hanks of the First Baptist Church.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you bow with me in prayer? Holy God, we do thank you for this day. God, we ask that you would send your spirit, that you would be present in this place today. Lord, that you would give wisdom in the decisions that need to be made. Lord, that your blessing would be upon our leaders, that you would guide and direct them. Lord, that you would give wisdom to the business that needs to be done today. We are thankful for your presence, for your guidance, for your protection. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Moves us on to the consent agenda, items 6 through 8, minutes from the April 8th, 2019, April 15th, April 22nd, and May 6th, 2019 study sessions, and also the April 17 and May 1st regular meetings, as well as the appointments to city boards of Sarah Stauffer to the Memorial Auditorium Advisory Board and Jody Lancaster to the Library Board, as well as Sharon Geis to the Library Board. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. That moves us on to the regular agenda. Do we have any public comments this morning?
No one's registered.
Thank you. I'll dispense with reading that paragraph and move on to the declaration. At this time, I'd like to give the commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication that they've had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Got all the housekeeping out of the way. We'll move on to new business. Item 11.
Proclamation recognizing May 18th, 2019 as National Kids to Parks Day.
In recognition of the 9th National Kids to Parks Day, organized by the National Park Trust to introduce a new generation to our nation's parks, this proclamation will be accepted by Cindy Brewer, and it will be read by Commissioner Kaler.
And the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas May 18, 2019 is the 9th National Kids to Parks Day, organized and launched by the National Park Trust. And whereas May 29, 2019 is Teen Summer Bash, and June 22, 2019 is Ottawa's annual Play Day. And whereas outdoor play in our parks empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoors and visit America's parks as well as our local parks. And whereas it is important to introduce a new generation of our nation's parks because of the decline in park attendance over the last decades. And whereas we should encourage children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat the issues of childhood obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and high cholesterol. And whereas National Kids to Parks Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and outdoors. And whereas National Kids to Parks Day and Play Day are open to all children and adults in Ottawa to encourage a large and diverse group of participants. Now therefore the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas does hereby proclaim to participate in National Kids to Parks Day and urges residents of Ottawa to make time May 18th to take children in their lives to Forest Park, City Park, or another neighborhood, state, or national park. Signed this the 15th day of May 2019 by our Mayor Blake Jorgensen.
Cindy, would you like to come forward, please? Smile for the camera here. I'd like to say a few words.
I'm just happy to accept this on behalf of the Play Task Force. And again, please enjoy our parks and our play day and our drive-by and see all the teams enjoying the team park.
All right, thank you, Sarah. That moves us on to item 12.
Proclamation recognizing May 2019 as Building Safety Month.
The International Code Council Foundation created Building Safety Month to expand awareness of the importance of a safe and sustainable built environment and critical role of building and fire codes and code officials. City Building Official Terry Elmer will accept the proclamation, and that will be read by Commissioner Crowley.
And the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the City of Ottawa, Kansas is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic value of the homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our citizens, both in everyday life and times of natural disaster. And whereas our confidence in the structural integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, electricians, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas our nation benefits economically and technologically from using the international codes that are developed by a national voluntary consensus codes and standards developing organization. Our government is able to avoid the high cost and complexity of developing and maintaining these codes, which are the most widely adopted building safety and fire prevention codes in the world. And whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from natural disasters such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildfires, floods, and earthquake, which, according to a FEMA-commissioned study by the National Institute of Building Sciences, provide $11 in future mitigation benefits for every dollar invested. And whereas no code, no confidence, the theme for Building Safety Month 2019 encourages all Americans to raise awareness of the importance of safe and resilient construction, fire prevention, disaster mitigation, and new technologies in the construction industry. Building Safety Month 2019 encourages appropriate steps everyone can take to ensure the safety of our built environment and recognizes that the implementation of safety codes by local and state agencies has saved lives and protected homes and businesses. And whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, sponsored by the International Code Council, Americans are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas, does hereby proclaim the month of May 2019 as Building Safety Month in the City of Ottawa and urges all citizens to consider projects to improve building safety at home and in the community, and to recognize the local building safety and fire prevention officials and the important role they play in public safety. Signed this 15th day of May 2019 by our Mayor, Leg Jorgensen.
Terry, would you like to come forward and accept this proclamation? Smile for the camera. Yeah. Would you like to say a few words? The mic. Yeah. Okay.
Hopefully to continue to make this a safe community for everybody to continue to live in.
Great. Thanks, Terry. That moves us on to item 13.
Proclamation recognizing May 12 through 18, 2019 as Police Week.
Established in 1962 by President John F. Kennedy and a joint resolution of Congress, National Police Week pays special tribute to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. Interim Police Chief Adam Weidgardner and Police Department staff will accept the proclamation, and it will be read by Commissioner Wygand.
Whereas there are more than 900,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, about 12% are women, including the dedicated members of the Ottawa Police Department. And whereas there have been 60,211 assaults against law enforcement officers in 2017, resulting in 17,476 injuries. And whereas since the first recorded death in 1791, 21,910 law enforcement officers in the United States
have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty, including Captain Robert C. Cowden of the Ottawa Police Department, who died in 1963. And whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., and whereas 371 new names of fallen heroes are being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring, including 158 officers killed in 2018 and 213 officers killed in previous years. And whereas the service and sacrifice of all officers killed in the line of duty will be honored during the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund's 31st Annual Candlelight Vigil on the evening of May 13, 2019. And whereas the Candlelight Vigil is part of National Police Week, which takes place this year on May 12 through 18, 2019. And whereas May 15 is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, U.S. flags should be flown at half-staff. Therefore, be it resolved that the City Commission formally designates May 12 through 18, 2019 as Police Week in the City of Ottawa, Kansas, and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in communities across the nation. Signed this 15th day of May 2019 by Mayor Blake Jorgensen.
Thank you. Chief, would you like to come forward and accept this proclamation? I'd like to say something.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, city staff, and citizens joining us in the room today, and anyone watching us online. We're honored that you would recognize us this week, much like you do every single day. I can tell you that every day I'm out in this community, despite what some of the national narratives may have been for the last few years, I have more people come up and thank me and the men and women of the police department for what they do every day. It is a regular occurrence. It is heartfelt. And I know that the community really enjoys the interactions that our officers have with them, despite some of the enforcement actions that they're lawfully obligated to take. So today is National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Day. At 11 o'clock this morning on the historic Franklin County Courthouse steps, we will honor and recognize two Franklin County officers who have given the ultimate sacrifice, Captain Robert Cowden from the Ottawa Police Department and Deputy Sam Smith from the Franklin County Sheriff's Office. I just want to read a couple statistics to you today. Like you said in the proclamation, there were anywhere between 158 to 163, depending on how the stats play out, for 2018, officers who gave their life in the line of duty. 27 of those are officers still suffering from related illness from the 9/11 attacks. We lose several dozen each year still who suffer from those illnesses and are qualified as line of duty deaths. In 2018, 52 officers were killed by gunfire. The next most leading cause of death is automobile crashes. And third is heart attack, which is what took Captain Cowden. Wellness and officer safety is paramount in everything we do. In order to protect you, we have to protect ourselves. Doing that means we have to be physically fit. We have to be mentally fit. We have to wear our seatbelts. We have to wear our protective vests. We have to drive within the limits of our police vehicles, regardless of the call for service. So in 2019, what you're going to see from our department is a push and a focus on those things that can keep our officers safe. Because I want every one of them to go home every night. And I want to be here with you every single day. In order to do that, we have to do our job to protect ourselves. So thank you for recognizing us. Thank you to the community for supporting us. And we look forward to helping in any way we can. And I look forward to seeing everyone on the courthouse steps for a short ceremony later this morning. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. We'll move on our agenda to item 14.
Request for approval of ordinance authorizing issuance of industrial revenue bonds.
This ordinance authorizes the issuance of industrial revenue bonds for a sales tax exemption on construction materials and labor used at 401 South Main Street project. It also authorizes the execution of certain bond documents, including the trust indenture, lease, base lease, and bond purchase agreement. And we have Tyler Ellsworth and Adrian Serin from QTAC and Rock LLP. Tyler.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mayor and Commissioners, good to be here. This action before you this morning follows the action that you took 2 weeks ago at your May 1st meeting. And this is in connection with Josh Walker's renovation of the building at 401 South Main. He has requested a sales tax exemption on construction materials and the labor that are involved in that renovation project. And so 2 weeks ago, you considered and approved a resolution of intent to issue industrial revenue bonds to put that sales tax exemption in place. This is the second and final step that the commission is being requested to consider. And the item this morning is a bond ordinance authorizing issuance of those bonds. I would note that the city isn't coming out of pocket and isn't obligated to levy taxes or anything like that to repay these bonds. The fees and costs associated with this bond issue, which is necessary to put the sales tax exemption in place, are paid by the developer. The developer's counsel, Matt Goff, is here if you have any questions about the project, about where things stand. I would also note that unrelated to the sales tax exemption IRBs, I believe that Mr. Walker is requesting a property tax abatement through your NRP program.
Right. Do we have any questions for Tyler? I see the developers here as well.
Did you say, what was that last sentence? You said requesting a property tax abatement?
I'm sorry, property tax rebate.
Neighborhood revitalization. Okay. Do we have any questions for Tyler or for staff?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner?
I'll make the motion to approve item 14 as on our agenda.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded to accept item 14, the request for approval of the ordinance. Is there any discussion?
I think we should make a comment and thank the developer for taking on this project and making an improvement that'll change downtown as far as the population of the businesses that are there. Make it a great addition, and also encourage anyone else that these same opportunities are available to them to work with the city to make things happen down there. So I think it's a great project.
I might also add, too, that with the neighborhood revitalization program we have in place, we're not giving up tax income, we're just deferring some of the tax income. I think the people in town should know that. It's very important, and it's a very important incentive that we need to have in our areas as well. So I'm glad our city staff works closely with the people with this neighborhood revitalization program, and I appreciate people like Josh Walker taking advantage of it. It's a good thing, so thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Wygand?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Jorgensen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. Thank you, Josh. That'll move us on to item 15.
Request for approval of ordinance modifying the start date for CID 1.
This ordinance is for the Ottawa Hotel CID 1, which imposes a 1% CID sales tax on the hotel and the Arby's restaurant. The ordinance modifies the start date for collection of the CID sales tax to April 1st, 2020. This accounts for the new construction schedule for the hotel project. We have Tyler and Adrian here as well to talk about this item.
So these next 4 agenda items are actually all together, and we touched on them at Monday's study session. But briefly, you'll recall that in the summer and fall of 2017, we put a package of incentives together, reached agreement on those incentives with Mike Works and Ottawa Lodging for development of the Holiday Inn. There were some delays in the project. We came back before you a year ago in the spring of 2018, sort of reset some dates and did some housekeeping items, and there were additional delays, and so we're back before you for the 3rd time with the understanding from the developer's team that they're ready to move forward on the project. provide sort of an overview briefly of these 4 agenda items, provide an additional update, and Matt Goff is representing the development here, and he will provide some additional comments.
Okay.
So the first 2 items, items 15 and 16 on the agenda, are ordinances modifying the start date for Community Improvement District sales taxes. There are 2 Community Improvement District sales taxes that are associated with the project. One is a 1% add-on sales tax that applies just to the hotel. The second is a 1% add-on sales tax that applies both to the hotel and to the RVs. The add-on sales tax runs for 22 years, and it was previously scheduled to start April 1st of this year. Because of the delay in the new construction schedule, we're requesting that that start date be moved back to April 1st of 2020 and run 22 years thereafter for both of those CIPs. So those actions are what are affected by item 15 and item 16 on the agenda. Item 17 on the agenda is an ordinance reauthorizing the issuance of sales tax industrial revenue bonds. Much like the action we just took in connection with Mr. Walker's 401 South Main project, the developer on the hotel project has requested a sales tax exemption on the construction materials being used in the hotel, and this ordinance authorizes issuance of those IRBs to put that sales tax exemption in place. Again, these are obligations that the taxpayers would be expected to take on. These are really bonds that are used in this instance just to provide that sales tax exemption. So that's item 17. Item number 18 is a resolution authorizing a second amended and restated development agreement between Ottawa Lodging, the hotel developer, and the city. This agreement sort of bundles up some of the modifications like the CIP start date modifications, some completion dates for construction of the project. And this sort of bundles up all that together. So the resolution authorizes the city to execute this amended and restated development agreement that ties together all the incentives of the deal. And I would note that I think probably the only substantive change is that in the development agreement, in the second amended and restated development agreement, there's been a request to extend the term of the TIF collection. The prior agreement, the first amended and restated development agreement, called for an 11-year reimbursement period for TIF property taxes. There's been a request to extend that to 12 years, not to extend the dollar, not to increase the dollar amount of the reimbursement, but to extend the developer's opportunity to reach the cap that is set in that agreement.
Okay. The maximum term is 20 years, is that correct?
The maximum statutory term is 20 years.
Okay.
In this case, we've allowed them 11 years previously,
And 12 now.
extending that to 12.
Okay.
Yes. So that's basically a summary of what the 4 agenda items accomplished this morning, if they're all approved. There was a question, and this is my update, at Monday's study session about the status of property taxes paid on this project, and I'll let the Developers Council, Matt Goff, give you an update on that.
Okay.
Before you leave, I've got a question, that's clarification on the 1% CID sales tax, and that goes for 22 years, right?
Yes.
And does that go to the hotel? What does that go? What is that for? I mean, it's for the CID, but how do we know, like, whether it's over, under, being paid for the right things? How is that managed?
That's a really good question. For both the TIF and the CID incentives, there's a list of eligible costs in the development agreement. TIF can only be used for infrastructure, in some cases parking improvements and things like that, but generally TIF reimbursement pays for public improvements. The developer incurs those costs, submits backup demonstrating and certifying that they have these eligible costs. We and city staff review that and approve the amount of reimbursement that the developer is requesting. That goes for TIF and CID. And when the monies come in from the TIF property tax payment over the term or the CID sales tax over the term, basically we pay down that amount that they have certified. And they can certify up to a cap on the TIF side and up to a cap on the CID side. And so if the CID sales tax comes in, for instance, the CID is capped at $1.6 million, maximum collection over the 22-year term.
I see.
for
Okay, so
both.
there is a cap on that.
There is a
Comes
cap
in
on
faster.
that. Right, so there's both a cap and there's a process by which the developer has to certify their costs.
And those sales tax are remitted to the state,
That's
which remits it
correct.
back to the city, who remits it to the developer once
That's
it's been
correct.
certified.
When they bring in what they paid. I was just thinking that if it goes for 22 years, no cap, what is it used for? Well, it's
Right.
ongoing maintenance, but it's for the development.
It's for
of
the
hotel, the repayment of the infrastructure and the hotel development.
Correct.
When
It's-
that's paid for, it passes.
It's done, that's correct. The TIF is
Okay.
used for public infrastructure primarily. The CID is used both for infrastructure, but also for vertical construction. They can use CID sales tax for building the hotel
Yeah.
itself.
Okay, so Tyler, that 1% also is applied to the RV sales, so does that all collect into one bucket and then dispersed?
That's another good question.
I wasn't
There
sure
should
how.
actually be, when the sales tax is put in place, in April 1st of 2020, there are two separate CIDs.
Okay.
And there should be two separate community improvement district funds that are set up on the city's books that account for the sales tax for each of those separate districts.
Okay, I get you. I hate to think how old I'll be 22 years from now.
Yeah,
Maybe Tom
yeah, that's
had that
right.
up already. But I think this is a great project. I think the fact that, yeah, the CID at Arby's is paid partially, I would assume, by the people of Ottawa, but almost all of the CID at the hotel would be paid by passersby. And I think it's important for people to know that it's being paid by people just passing through, and that helps us on the bottom line. So yeah, with all that, I'll make a motion we approve item 15 on the agenda.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the request, the ordinance modifying the start date for the CID 1. Is there any discussion?
Actually,
Should we hear from Matt?
You may want to hear from
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Goff.
Okay. We're in the discussion portion. Matt, would you like to come forward?
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Matt Goff. I'm with Barbara Emerson Law Firm in Lawrence, Kansas, here today on behalf of the developer applicant, and I appreciate your patience and your time. There was a question at the study session about whether the property taxes had been paid for this property, and the answer is a little more complicated than a yes or no. The check was delivered to the Franklin County Treasurer's Office in April, late April. It wasn't for the exact amount owed, so they didn't process it. Tomorrow, the Treasurer's Office will receive payment for approximately $800 to make up the difference. And then at that point, the taxes on both the Arby's lot and the hotel lot will have been paid in full. Turns out that when the Arby's lot was subdivided and sold, the ownership didn't change, and so my clients have actually paid the real estate taxes for both lots. But regardless, there's an $800 difference, more or less, and I'm informed there'll be a check there tomorrow morning. I would say that if it concerns you in any way, don't sign the development agreement and hold off on taking any official action or signatures until you've gotten the confirmation you need from Franklin County. Beyond that, I'm pleased to stand for any questions that you may have.
Questions?
I actually have a question for Tyler. Sorry, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tyler, you had indicated, and this kind of goes into the whole package that we had been discussing, you had indicated that there is a CID cap of 1.6 million, but I don't remember what the TIF cap was.
The TIF cap, there is a TIF cap, and it's 2.365 million.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on this item?
I don't think that that's a big concern. They'll pay their taxes, or the project doesn't materialize. It's not a great risk to the city. It's up to them to make this work. We don't have any dog in that game, do we?
Didn't catch the tail end of that, Commissioner Wygant. Could you repeat that question?
Well, the 800, you had said that we should be, if we have any concern, and I was just saying that I don't think we really have a concern. that would be, I guess maybe our attorney might have, but my statement is that as we go forward, the city doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't have that concern because it will have to work out, or the liability for that will be on the developers end of the deal, and between the county and the developer as far as that goes. It's not whether the deal works for the city or doesn't work for the city. Am I wrong?
That's correct. I mean, the county has enforcement mechanisms, and moreover, if a developer doesn't pay taxes, they don't get any TIF, so.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I did contact the county treasurer this morning just prior to your meeting and can confirm the details of what Mr. Goff has represented to the commission. They do have the check there for all but the last, I think, $795, and we anticipate that coming in. I do think that there's a strong public policy argument in favor of you approving further tax incentives while there are back due taxes owed. Now, in this case, again, the lion's share has been paid. They have confirmed receipt of that check and those funds. But to the point made by Mr. Goff on item 18, you certainly can approve the development agreement this morning contingent on final execution after confirmation that all sums have been paid. And that would not be out of the ordinary, and that would not be anything that you that would prejudice a developer or prevent them from moving forward. And we anticipate, according to Mr. Goff's representations, that last $800 will be paid tomorrow, and then we'll have all of the taxes brought current on both parcels. And that obviously would be where you'd want to start from if you're granting further tax incentives with taxpayer dollars.
If there's no rush, we could put it off till next meeting, next formal meeting. Is there?
I would not suggest putting
Time
off the
sensitive.
adoption of the agreement, Commissioner. I think you want to go ahead and approve the
Contingency.
agreement, but just preclude execution by city staff and the mayor until such time as you've confirmed payment of all taxes.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote on item 15.
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Wygand?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Mayor Jorgensen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. That moves us on to item 16.
Request for approval of ordinance modifying the start date for CID 2.
This ordinance is the Ottawa Hotel CID 2, which imposes a second 1% CID sales tax on the hotel, but does not include the Arby's restaurant. The ordinance modifies the start date for collection of the CID sales tax to April 1st, 2020. This accounts for the new construction schedule for the hotel project. Is there any discussion or any questions?
The term second CID,
Does
does that mean there's two, or is it just for a second project?
There are, in fact, two CIDs.
So there'd be two 1% additions.
Correct. On the hotel, there are two 1% CIDs, a single 1% CID
Okay.
that includes Arby's.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner?
I move that we approve the modifying of the start date for the second CID.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept, would that include the entire agreement?
Yes.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the ordinance modifying the start date. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Wygand?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Mayor Jorgensen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. Moves us on to item 17.
Request for approval of ordinance reauthorizing issuance of industrial revenue bonds.
This ordinance reauthorizes the issuance of industrial revenue bonds, IRBs, for a sales tax exemption on construction and materials used in the hotel project. The City Commission passed an ordinance authorizing issuance of IRBs in 2018, but the project was delayed, and bonds were never issued. This ordinance repeals and replaces the 2018 ordinance. Do I hear a motion?
Mayor Jorgensen, I'll make a motion we approve item 17.
I'll second
It's been moved and seconded to approve item 17 of the agenda. Is there any discussion?
Would that motion include a contingency upon the parties becoming current on their property taxes?
I believe item 18 would
Item
be the
18 is where you
appropriate,
went
for that.
for the
contingency
development
in place
agreement.
of the agreement.
It's just the IRB.
Good, just checking, make sure everyone was listening.
Okay.
Good.
Keep us on our toes.
There you go.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Well, if not, we'll proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Wygand?
Yes.
Mayor Jorgensen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. Item 18.
Request for approval of resolution authorizing second amended and restated development agreement.
This resolution authorizes the city to sign a second amended and restated development agreement with the hotel developer. This reflects the new construction schedule for the hotel project. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner?
I move that we approve the IRB bonds as listed in number 17 on our agenda.
Or 18?
18. Goodness gracious, I like 17. That's not part of the motion. But number 18, I move that we approve the resolution authorizing the amended and restated development agreement to include, tell me the words that I need to say. Help me. Subject to.
You'll delay signing until such time as you've confirmed receipt of all property taxes owed on the parcel.
I'll
Yes.
second it.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded as such. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Wygand?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Jorgensen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. Thank you all. That'll move us on to item 19, report by the city manager.
We're sure that's 19, right?
I
Just
am,
kidding,
I
just
double
kidding.
checked.
I have nothing, Commissioners.
Okay. And we'll move on to item 20, reports by the city commissioners, and I'll start on my left with Commissioner Skidmore.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Wygand?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Kaler?
I'd like to talk ad nauseum about item 17. Just buckle yourself down. We'll be here for an hour. No, nothing.
Okay. Commissioner Crowley?
I have nothing.
And I will move on to item 21, reports by the mayor. Just would like to report that I had lunch with about 20 preschool children on Monday, and which was an experience that's been several years since I ate with a preschool child, a 4-year-old, and I forgot how talkative and how they ate.
How formative they are.
And how informative, that's exactly right. And then yesterday, I had an opportunity to spend about an hour or 30 minutes to an hour with about 90 third graders. And kind of told them what the city did and the jobs of the mayor, and also answered questions for about 20 minutes and had a lot of good questions from those 9-year-olds. So that was a fun time. It was over at the courthouse, and it was students from Sunflower Elementary School. So that's one of the perks of being the mayor. But we'll go ahead and move on to announcements now. On today at 11, the police memorial ceremony will be on the Franklin County Courthouse steps, and I assume that's on the west side. Is that correct? Okay. And at noon will be the Joint City-County USD 290 luncheon at 12 o'clock here in City Hall. And then our next study session will be on May 20th at 4 p.m. here in City Hall. May 27th study session will be canceled due to Memorial Day. Is there anything further that should come before this meeting today? Hearing none, I'll call it adjourned. Thank you.